we have a lot of material or a lot of items to go through today, so let's get started. And I wanted to start with this quote by Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motorsports. And anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. The greatest thing in life is to keep your mind young. And I think the biggest takeaway that people should take away from this quote is that never stop learning. Just because you've done something maybe for 5, 10, 20 years doesn't mean that there isn't another way of doing it. And maybe with technology that's come out over that period of time, it may make your task or job a little bit simpler. And it might just enhance your life completely. So do not kind of be stuck in the mud, and be willing to learn and adapt as things come out. And another thing that I want people to think about as we go through this presentation is this is exciting. You're going into another phase, another chapter in your life. And what you can do now versus previous generations is totally different, and it can allow you to do more things than previous generations. And think of all the changes that have happened over the last 10 years and what may happen in the next upcoming 10 years, and how things could be even easier than what we have today. And so as we look at this slide that's on here, you can see that technology and smartphones and social media has been more adapted across all generations over the last 10 and 15 years. I mean, most of us now don't have a flip phone. We have a smartphone like this, an iPhone, Google Pixel, Galaxy phone, where we can surf the internet. We have a bunch of different apps on our phone. We have everything basically at our fingertips. It's basically a supercomputer better than the supercomputers that were back in the 80s and 90s. We all have just in our pockets. Another thing is a tablet computer. Those weren't even really invented, I don't think, before 2010. And look at how many people, almost every generation, almost 50% of people have an iPad or something along those lines. My grandmother had, for example, and my wife's grandmother both have an iPad, and it has allowed us during this COVID and this pandemic that we've been in to FaceTime and still feel connected with them, even though when we haven't been able to see them, not as much as we would like to, because again, wanting to keep everyone safe. So it's great that this technology is more widely adapted, and we can use that to stay connected. And then lastly is the social media. A lot of people are on Facebook, Twitter, and that's widely used with people across all generations. And as we look at here, you can see on the left-hand side, the top apps that are on tablets and smartphones. Probably most of you are familiar with, if not all 10, with most of them, with Disney Plus, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Netflix. And you can see a lot of people have a lot of different apps for different uses on their phones. There's on average 40 apps on someone's smartphone. And that almost doubles as you go down the generations, and the younger generations almost have 70 apps, but you can see a lot of time is spent on just a few of those apps, and they're not using all of them all the time. So for example, I have a hunting app on my phone. I don't usually use that between December to August. It never gets used, but I will tell you in September, October, November, I'm wanting to figure out where the wind direction's coming from as I'm hunting. So it just sometimes depends on what time of the year an app may be used more than another one. Now that we've kind of a lot of different things, let's talk about how this technology can change your life, and we'll go through all the 5 different categories. But before we do that, there is this really cool study that was done by the MIT Age Lab that had people ask these 3 questions to help judge their quality of life as they transition into retirement and through their life. And it's just a simple question of, who will change my light bulb? Now, it seems like a simple question, but as we age, and maybe that you can't continue to do these physical things like changing a light bulb or cutting the grass or something along those lines, or you simply don't want to, maybe you don't want to cut your grass, that you can now look, there's these apps and this technology that you can find people to do that for you and help keep you in your home for a longer period of time. The second question is, how will I get an ice cream cone? And this is about the social aspect of being able to be connected to people, as we all have experienced that since the COVID pandemic started here in the United States, of needing to stay connected to our loved ones, whether they're family and friends. So again, being able to interact and be able to interact with our loved ones is an important aspect to have a good quality of life. And then lastly, who will I have lunch with? And this is coming back to the transportation side of things, is how am I going to get from point A to point B? How am I going to go out with lunch with my friends or with family? Or how am I going to get to my child or grandchild's softball game or birthday party or Christmas or all these other big important events that you want to be a part of their lives with? So maybe you can't drive or don't want to drive. Now there's these different technology apps that are out there that can help get you from point A to point B. And the first one we'll talk about is staying on the job. And so it's not as much of a cut and dry of when people start retirement and stop working in their careers. Due to the evolution of technology, people are staying on the job for a longer period of time because technology has given them more flexibility and being able to pick and choose what types of jobs they want to take. And as we go to the next slide here, some people may think, well, the only reason I'm going to work in retirement is I just need extra money to get by, whether there's a lot of different factors in there, but the reason why people work is financial reasons. But as you look at the top three, based on the study that was on here, that was conducted back in 2019, the top three reasons are not financially involved whatsoever. The first reason was at 90%, they want to stay active and involved. They want to feel a part of something. They want to have something to look forward to, interact with a bunch of different people besides people who are in your immediate household. Second one is people just enjoy what they're doing, or maybe the job that they're going to do while they're kind of phasing into retirement is an occupation that they like a little bit better. So maybe you're a gardener and you pick up a part-time job working at a local garden or flower shop. So maybe you just enjoy doing that and it doesn't necessarily feel like work to you. And the third one is somewhat financially related, where you just maybe want to buy a little bit more extra. Maybe you're a big golfer and you, instead of going on the course once a month or once a week, you want to go twice or three times a week, and working an extra job allows you to do that. Or if you're a big traveler, maybe instead of doing one trip a year, it allows you to do two, or instead of two, doing three. So just helps you do some of the things that you want to do. And then as you can see on the bottom three reasons on this report, they're more financially linked with needing health insurance benefits. Their values of their retirement accounts have gone down, or they just simply need more money because they can't make ends meet, which again, want to focus more on the positive reasons why people are working instead of the negative. And also technology and the apps that are out there has given that flexibility to the retirement worker. Things like Uber and Lyft allow people to pick what type of schedule they want to work in a particular day or week. So let's say someone's in retirement and they want to work a little bit to pay for the extras. That with Uber or Lyft, they could maybe work 30 hours one week because they don't have as much going on, and it would be nice to have a little bit more money coming in. And then the following week, they don't have as much, or they have a lot of things scheduled with family and friends, and they only can do it for maybe 5 hours or maybe 0 hours that week. And so that gives them that flexibility of, depending on what's coming up, what hours they can do in a particular week. And if you're not familiar with what Uber is or Lyft, how it works is you, again, take your smartphone here, and you download the app on your phone, and you will link up your credit card or debit card to the app. And because you will give the Uber or Lyft access to your location, you will say, okay, I'm at Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and I want to go to a local restaurant. So pick your local restaurant that's your favorite in the area, and it will show a bunch of drivers that are in the area. They'll have someone come pick you up. Before a driver comes to pick you up, there'll be agreed upon price. So maybe it will take you $10 to get from your house to your restaurant. And then you'll know what type of car, once you confirm that driver, you'll know your driver's name and what vehicle to look out for as they come pick you up. You go to your restaurant, and then assuming that you need a way to get back to your to your house, you can then use Uber once again and then drive you back to your house the same exact way. So again, it gives you the flexibility of being able to pick up a driver and knowing what price you're exactly paying before saying, yes, I want to be driven somewhere. Unlike a taxi cab, where sometimes you don't know your bill until you're done with your drive because you can maybe get stuck in traffic and other things. The other app that allows people to a little bit more flexibility are Airbnb, and Verbo is another one that's not on the slide here. That's a way that people who maybe have a cottage up north or secondary house that they don't necessarily go to all the time, you can rent this out and give you a little bit of extra income for maybe a week or a weekend, depending on how long you want to rent it out, to potentially pay for the real estate taxes, could help pay utilities and some of these other expenses that come along with owning another home that can just help you keep that house up. But again, you have to be comfortable with another family or strangers coming in there renting out for a period of time. But it could be financially beneficial for you to look at that. And also, if you're traveling and wanting to go to another area, sometimes Airbnbs and Verbos can be a cheaper alternative than going to a hotel, and gives you a little bit more homey feel rather than being in a hotel at some point. So it's also something worthwhile to check out if you're not going to be a renter and you want to use it for travel. Another thing is that maybe you don't need the money or you don't want to work a job, but you've always had a passion of volunteering. And so there's these websites and apps like AARP, Volunteer Match, that you can go to. You type in your local area, maybe an interest of yours, and it helps narrow down some of the organizations and charities that could use your volunteering in order to help their organization. So if you have a feel of wanting to give back to your community and still being connected to it, this is also another great opportunity for you to use to give back to your local area. If you're wanting to not necessarily work, but you're always have been keen on wanting to learn more, and I'm assuming a lot of you that are logged on today are wanting to learn about different apps, so this might be some of interest to you, is that there is these online courses where you won't earn any college credit, but you can take the course just to sharpen your skills a little bit more and just learn another subject or something that you've always just been curious about. Maybe you've always wanted to take it, Economics 101. You could find that on some of the courses that are listed on there, like Coursera, edX, One Day University, and there's a lot of universities they go through to teach people a certain subject. And then maybe if you're just wanting to learn a few things on the side, there's a bunch of websites that are listed up here like YouTube, or if you don't are on the go more and you just want to be able to listen to things, there are podcasts. So that purple icon that's listed on there is for iPhone users or Apple users, but there are other podcasts apps out there like Castbox and other ones that are on Android that you could use. But I use YouTube all the time. I can't tell you, with now replacing floors in our house, how many times I've had to go to YouTube and, oh, I have this problem. How am I going to fix it? Okay, you type it in, watch a few videos. Okay, I feel like I can fix it. So I've been using it very frequently lately. And maybe some of you that have done projects around the house have used YouTube as well to help figure out a problem. And that's been a great resource for me as I'm trying to get projects done. And then lastly, TED or TEDx is a organization that's out there that are ideas worth sharing. A lot of their these videos are around 18 minutes, and it's usually just a thought-provoking idea that, a person feels strongly about that wants to get the word about out and about into the community. So those are also good ways to learn new material. Our second one is staying connected to family and friends. And that, as we all have seen over the last 14 months, 15 months, as we've been socially distancing, on how important that is. It can be really lonely. I can remember, especially in the worst of it, and wanting to connect to people, whether it was my family, whether it was close friends of mine, of wanting to schedule Zoom calls on a weekly or monthly basis just to feel connected to people, because I was stuck in the same four walls all the time, and I felt like I needed to be connected, and I imagine a lot of other people felt the same way. And actually, in few instances, I found myself talking to people that I haven't talked to in years more frequently than before the pandemic. So it allowed me to reconnect to people that I haven't talked to in a long period of time. And as we look on here, we're using Zoom right now. We're doing that for our webinar to have people learn a little bit more about what different technologies are out there. So a lot of us are familiar with that. We've used that with friends and family and maybe professionally as well, but other ones that are pretty common with the video conferencing are WebEx, that's usually a little bit more business related, and FaceTime again for the Apple users, that's usually already installed on all iPads, iPhones, things of that nature. For social media, the one that people are probably most familiar with is Facebook, the one that's in the top left-hand corner there. It seems like most people have Facebook at this time, so a lot of people are familiar that there's photos, messages that are posted on there all the time. But ones that you might not be as familiar with would be the Snapchat and Instagram, where that's usually used by the younger generations. Instagram is a little bit more photo based, where you can still have messages and do instant messaging on there. But the big driver there is just being, you're posting pictures of what you've been doing, and it's a way to stay connected that way. And then Snapchat is another one where there's a lot of instant messaging, where you can download the app, and if someone else has it, you can get their username and you can send messages that stick around for maybe only 10 seconds, or videos or pictures, as just a fun way to talk to one another. The third one is being able to transport and staying mobile. And as we probably all know, it's very important for someone's quality of life to be able to get from point A to point B. And it can have a huge toll on your physical and emotional well-being if you cannot go to all the places that you want to go to. And there is a quote that a spokesman from AAA, Michael Green, that said, older Americans who have stopped driving are almost 2 times more likely to suffer from depression and nearly 5 times as likely to enter a long-term care facility compared to those who remain behind the wheel. So that has a huge impact on people's financial well-being, emotional well-being, and physical well-being if you're not able to get yourself around and out and about. And the nice thing that has come with technology is it's allowed people to stay behind the wheel a little bit longer with these additional technologies that have been added to today's cars. I can't tell you how many times I use my backup camera, or I severely miss my blind spot warning, where I'm trying to move from one lane to the next and having the extra reassurance that no one's in my blind spot. I had that on my SUV and don't have that on my truck right now, and how big of a helpful aid that is. And so we have these things that help people stay in their car a little bit longer. And so just think of in the next 5 or 10 years, what's going to continue to be put on cars to help us feel safer. And hopefully at some point we'll have that self-driving car that I know a lot of automakers are trying to get to right now. But maybe there's the whole simple of you can't drive any longer. But that doesn't mean that you still can't get around and go from point A to point B, because you have now Uber, Lyft, all these other apps that you can download on your phone to get you around. And one thing for you to think about, let's say you and your spouse or partner have 2 cars, and you do a lot of your driving with just one vehicle and the other one just sits there. Something to think about is maybe I know a lot of people talk about downsizing their homes potentially in retirement, but what about thinking about downsizing your vehicles? Because there was a study that was done by AAA once again back in 2019, that if someone traveled 15,000 miles, the cost of having that extra car is about $10,400. That's a lot of money in 1 year, especially if you're not using it that frequently, because again, you're probably doing majority of your traveling while you're in retirement with your significant other. So that's where it may make sense to go down to one vehicle. And then maybe if your partner or spouse is using the one vehicle and you have to do just local traveling, well, maybe that's when you use Uber and Lyft, pay the 20, 30 bucks it takes you to get back and forth, and you're going to save money in the long run by doing that. So again, not necessarily something you have to do, but just something to think about. And it's only a really alternative if you're going to do a lot of traveling in your local community. It would be fine. It would not be as financially incentivizing to downsize if you're doing more of your traveling outside of a community and your commutes maybe an hour. So that's where it may make a little less sense, but something to think about. And there's also a lot more apps that give us the ability to be able to have a little bit more flexibility and to enhance our lives and having to take some tasks off our shoulders. So for example, grocery delivering has been a huge thing, again, with the pandemic. As you're going to see, the pandemic shifted a lot of our habits here and has allowed all of us to adapt this technology a little bit more, where there's grocery delivery by Amazon Prime users, there's Ship, Instacart, Peapod. There's a lot more out there that you pay like an annual membership, and every time you get groceries delivered to your house, you pay a one-time fee on top of that, and you can get your groceries delivered right to your door. I know my wife and I use Instacart. We don't get our groceries delivered to our house, but we do a lot of our shopping at Aldi, or as much as we can there. And so my wife goes on, gets all of her groceries on there. She pays a $2 fee for a shopper to go out and about. We have a pickup time that we just drive into the parking lot, and they have a person that just drops off the groceries in the back of our car, and we're on our way. So for that $2, we both think it's well worth our time just to go out, have someone else pick it for us. And we save maybe 20, 30 minutes in the grocery store, and we can get a little bit of time back in our days. So just think about that, especially if you go to Aldi. There is something, they have a partnership with Instacart there. We've talked quite a bit about the ride, so we'll kind of skip over that. But there's also been the restaurant delivery. Again, during the pandemic, especially Abby and I were trying to find ways to support our local restaurants and help them through this tough time. So we used Grubhub, Uber Eats, and had our food from our favorite restaurants that are in the Fond du Lac area deliver right to our door, and we didn't have to cook, and we still got to eat the same great food that we've been accustomed to when we go out to dinner. So, and then again, helped a local business. So these Grubhubs, Uber Eats, DoorDash are all options that you can go either online or on an app on your tablet or smartphone that you can get your food from your favorite restaurants delivered right to your door. And then there's these things called meal kits, where maybe you don't like grocery shopping or picking up all the ingredients to do your cooking, but you like cooking. There's these already prepared meal kits that have all the ingredients put together, and they have the step-by-step directions on how you need to prepare a certain dinner or lunch. And you don't have to worry about the portion sizing and making sure you have the exact ingredients in your house. And you can have like a 2-meal, 4-meal, 5-meal plan for a week. And you can skip a week if you're going to be out of town for a while and you're not going to need all those meals. So those are also different additional options that are out there if you don't like the grocery shopping. But there's things like HelloFresh, Sunbasket, Home Chef, Blue Apron, a lot of them out there. My mom in particular uses the 2-meal HelloFresh meal kit, and she loves it. She thinks that it has really good quality of food, and they've been happy about it. It's just, she likes it because she doesn't have to worry about cooking 2 times a week and having to make sure it's all prepared. So they've been a happy customer of theirs for the last few years. The second last topic we're going to talk about is how your technology can be widely adapted throughout your home. So this can also help you do tasks around the house and also enhance your life while you're at home, where we're spending most of our times. Maybe not so much here up in Wisconsin, as the weather's getting nice and we're trying to spend as much time being outside and being out and about. But when we are at home, technology can be a huge helper around the house. And so the first thing we'll talk about is, if anyone's heard about these streaming devices that are out there and streaming services, these 12 options that are in here are some of the most common ones. There's Netflix and Disney Plus, where there's videos with movies, television series that you can watch as long as you're subscribed to those services. Hulu is the same thing. But then there are like things like YouTube TV, AT&T TV, Fubo TV, Sling, all these other services that are out there that if you're unhappy with your cable provider or your satellite provider, you can use these YouTube TV, AT&T TV to get your same cable channels that you've grown accustomed to and you like watching. The reason why Abby and I use this is we like the flexibility of the month-to-month contract, so we don't have to sign maybe an annual or two-year contract that we have with a satellite provider or a cable provider. And if they drop one of our favorite TV programs, and we feel like we're stuck with them, well, if we, by having these streaming devices and streaming services, if they do that, well, we can just cancel that next month and then find another one that still has that channel for us. So that's why we've liked using this streaming option. And a lot of them, I would just say, give it a try if you are unhappy with what you're using right now. They usually have a 7-day, 14-day trial period that you can try it out and see if they have all the channels that you like and that you're comfortable using it. One thing I would warn people is that if you don't have the greatest internet connection, this might not be the greatest option for you because it does rely on high internet speeds in order to stream the high definition content over your internet. The one thing we have found, we use most of these on here. YouTube TV, we've found has the easiest interface to maneuver throughout the device. But I think your biggest decision is, again, what channels do each one of these offer and which one suits you and your everyone in your house the best. So again, go out there, try them, and see what one's going to fit the best for you. Other things are, again, we're going back to the light bulb question, is the MIT Age Labs questions, is how are you going to help get some of these tasks down there or done around the house that you necessarily can't do or don't want to do. There's a lot of different apps and websites out there. Angie's List, Home Advisor, all these other ones are the most well-known out there, where you, again, say maybe you need a plumber. And you go to Angie's List, you type plumber in your local location, and they have a bunch of different options that are out there of different plumbers that you can use. And they have different reviews by different users that have used that plumber in the past. So it helps kind of narrow down your decision of, okay, well, these people had a really good experience with this plumber, maybe I should give them a try. Or on the opposite side, you thought maybe you should use this plumber, but they have a lot of negative reviews. Well, maybe you should rethink and look at another option that would work better for you. So these are apps and websites that are helping you get tasks done around the house that you might not want to do any longer, or just physically can't do anymore. It just would help you out if someone would maybe cut the grass or snow removal or different things that we have up here in Wisconsin. And the last big one is that there's a lot of technology that helps monitor the health. And this has been a big thing that a lot of technology companies have been focusing on and going after, because we are becoming more and aware of our health, more and more aware of our health compared to previous generations. And so that's why you have things like a Garmin watch, and people have Fitbits, so they can track maybe their heart rates, how many steps they're doing in a day, as we're becoming more and more health conscious as a society. So as we look at this slide here, you can see a bunch of different apps that are out there that help with our fitness and our health. So I mentioned Fitbit, but there's also Garmin has activity tracker for you. But there's also things where if you want to necessarily talk to a physician or a doctor because you're needing assistance with a medical question, there are things now called Amwell, Teledoc, Doctor on Demand, where you can talk to a physician, get medical advice, all at the comfort of your own home. And you don't necessarily have to go to a clinic or a hospital to get that advice. And that especially is important, as maybe people felt uncomfortable going to a hospital during the worst of the pandemic. And if we have any other health scares in the future, that you can still get medical advice, even though you don't necessarily feel comfortable going into a clinic or a hospital. Just for a quick story, my father-in-law used, I believe it was Teledoc. We were up north, had a medical concern that came up, was able to talk to his physician all online, and didn't have to go to a doctor that he was unaware of, and didn't have a history of them, and the doctor didn't know him, and was 5 hours away from home, but was still able to get that same advice from that same physician by using these apps. So again, it can come in a big help if you have those types of scenarios, if you're traveling in and away from home, you can still talk to your doctor, depending if your doctor's subscribed to any of these services. And then lastly, there's things like PillPack, Pillboxy. If you're taking pills and just would like a helpful reminder, there's apps out there that can help you do that. So before we wrap up today, I just want to make sure if you do have any last minute questions, you can certainly send your questions to info@providentfc.com, and Heather will be doing some double checking to make sure that if we have any questions that have come in over this period of time. But the biggest thing is the next steps is take this brochure that's going to be emailed to you. Maybe look at some of the items that I talked about that piqued your interest and just try one or two of them and see if that you can adapt that into your life. It's better to start doing it now and where you might not necessarily need to do it before you might need to use it 5 or 10 years down the road, because now you're comfortable with it today. And so when it may come into handy down the road, you don't have to do this extra step of, okay, familiarizing myself with the app, making sure that you know how everything works, and you just feel comfortable right before you need to use it. So again, the biggest thing is just try it, continue to learn. Like Henry Ford said, you'll stay young if you continue to learn and educate yourselves, and continuing trying to find new ways that you can help enhance your life. So Heather, do we have any questions for today? No? Okay. So again, I wanted to thank everyone for taking time out of their day to listen to this presentation. Again, I hope everyone took at least something away from here, and you'll be able to try an app that will help you out. Again, thank you again. I hope you all enjoyed the nice weather that we're having today, and we'll see you next time for our next month's webinar, and we'll hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much.